Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. And good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whichever part of this crazy planet you are living on. Anyway, so it's Monday again. Just another manic Monday. I wish it was Sunday. That's my fun day. I know, sorry about the singing. But yeah, here we are, Monday again. I don't know if you're a person who likes Mondays, a person who doesn't like Mondays, a person who doesn't care every day's the same. Mondays are always a little bit frenetic normally, aren't they? Touchwood, mine hasn't been so far. It normally is. But so far, touchwood, so far, so good. Okay, so I've had some classes this morning. Those of you that know me know that I do Spanish classes. I've had a couple of classes this morning. I've got more classes later. But I thought I'd just come on and talk about this very upsetting incident in Luton in the UK. And I think it ties in with a lot of the cases that we've looked at, a lot of incidences we've looked at involving young people committing terrible crimes, such as in the Southport stabbings, etc. And this is a case of domestic violence, really, but it's not a case of the normal domestic violence that we think of. It's someone against their partner. This is a case of a son, an 18-year-old boy. Really, he's a man, but he's only just a man in the eyes of the law. 18 years old, has killed, apparently, allegedly, or so it seems, not only his own mother, but also his two siblings, two other adolescents. What on earth could make somebody do that? That's what we're going to look at. We're going to look at what's happened and what, how can this be stopped from happening again? Because violence against parents is a lot more common than people even know about. Because I think it's something that quite a lot of parents don't even want to talk about. Because it's not like, your partner, and that's hard enough to admit that your partner's been abusing you, to go to the police, all the implications that lead from that. But when it's your own child, that's very difficult. I know people that this has happened to. First of all, it's difficult to even admit that your child would be capable of hurting you. To go to the police and say that, and it's your child, you love them, you don't want them to be arrested necessarily. Maybe they've got mental health. They're 100% likely this boy has got mental health issues. So I think it's much more complex than domestic violence from a partner. Domestic violence from a child to parent violence, or child to sibling violence, is very complicated, and I think it's a lot more common than people think or know. But anyway, first of all, I'm just going to say thank you to everyone for liking my videos, for subscribing. Thank you. Special thanks to my members, as always. Members Live tomorrow night. Why not become a member and join in our special Members Live on a Tuesday night? And also, I want to thank anyone who's bought me a Ko-fi, sent me super stickers, sent me a PayPal, etc. Oh, and I had some lovely emails this morning with pictures of people's pets. So don't forget to... What are you going on about? So don't forget to send in pictures of your pets, because we're going to have a pet special in October. The dog's trying to get a word in, as always. So I'm going to say hello to everyone who's here first, before I start with this. So, Peter Folding. Hi, Peter. Hi, Daniel. Hi, Charlie. It's a beautiful day here, Charlie. it is now, well, it's already 27 degrees. It has cooled down, believe it or not, but it's still. Hi, Pauline. You know, it's such a shame. You know, I think there's a lot of people. I've come to sort of realise it over years that, you know, years ago when I used to take people to do wills and things like that to make their wills, I remember going to the notary with a couple, and they were doing their will, and they specified in their will that their adult children should not receive any money when they die. They wanted it specifying. And I remember thinking, oh my God, you just couldn't imagine disowning your own child. But, you know, now, because, you know, in the notary there, they were astounded by it, you know, because in Spain, you cannot disown your children. You can say you can't disown them. You can't disinherit them. You cannot. If you are Spanish, you can do it if you're if you're not from Spain, because you can do it under the laws of your country. But in Spanish rules, Spanish people, you cannot disinherit your children. Your children get 50% of your estate, whether you want them to or not. So if you can leave the other 50% to anybody, to the dog's home if you want to, or, you know, to Fred up the road, or somebody who you like, your friend or whatever. But there's 50% of your estate in Spain. If you're Spanish, you have no choice. It goes to your children, whether you hate them, whether you love them. It's divided equally amongst your children, whatever you want. You cannot write them out of the will. Whereas in the UK, I think you can, and probably other countries. So it's interesting. But yeah, I just remember thinking, oh my goodness, why would you want to disinherit your children and that? But, you know, who knows what had happened there in the past? Who knows what the treatment had been? So the thing is, relationships between children and parents, they do change, don't they, as time goes on? You know, we all know that teenage years are difficult for I don't think there's any teenager who doesn't go through some sort of rebellion towards their parents. But some go to an extreme where they actually hate them, they take their lives, or they hurt them, or they just leave home and are never heard of again. You know, there's all sorts of things. But of course, most people that go through these difficult times, I don't think there's, you know, there probably won't be many people out there who either you or your children or somebody you know haven't gone through really difficult times, teenage years. And not only teenage years, I think it goes right up to when they're 30 at least. You know, it's like, don't know what it is. Seems to be just an era that you go through. And then these parents that you loved so much, you know, this mum that used to, you know, read you a good night story and you thought she was the best thing ever, or your dad that your hero worshipped and thought he was brilliant. Suddenly you think they're crap, everything they say is rubbish, they don't know anything, they've never lived, every bit of advice they ever give you is a load of rubbish. You know, suddenly you go from sort of adoring these parents and wanting to be with them and looking at, you know, to just wanting to be with your friends. You don't give a toss about your parents. You know, that does happen a lot. But of course, that's happened in this case is completely extreme, isn't it? Completely extreme. Just, you know, to actually go so far as to murder your parents. And not only your parents, your siblings. Hi, Maria. Not only your parents, but your siblings. There's so much hate must have been involved there. Anyway, we're going to look at that. So I think I said hello. Hi, Charlie. I did say hello to Charlie, I think. And hi, Pauline. Now, let's have a look at what's happened. So first of all, let me show you where it's happened. So for people who don't know maybe the UK very well, this has happened in Luton. in the UK, which is near London, Luton Airport. Probably people, there was a famous advert many years ago with Luton Airport. So, yeah, so it's outside London, but not too far away from London. I've quite often flown to Luton, even going to Manchester, because sometimes the flights are cheaper, and it's easy to travel from Luton to Manchester. It's quite a good, trying to look where Manchester is there now. There's Birmingham, so that's Midlands. And Manchester's up here. Yeah, I've travelled from Luton. When my father died, I got a flight to Luton and then rented a car and drove from Luton to Manchester. It literally was just a couple of hours. It was just up the road. It's an easy access point. But anyway, that's where this has happened. And this poor family, and I include the boy in that because he's lost all his family. He's lost everyone who ever cared about him. Who's going to care about him now? What made him do this? When he's in prison, who's going to go and see him? Who's going to take him things? It's a really, because quite often these young people, they do it to people who do care about them. Sometimes the only person who really cares about them, but they just can't see it. They just don't, I don't know, there's obviously mental health issues, and I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know for certain yet, because of course this only happened yesterday, I think. So there's a lot of details to come out. But I would, bet money that there are drugs involved in this. That this boy was under the influence of drugs in some way. And it turns out he had a firearm. How did he get a firearm? So this ties in with all the things we've been talking about lately. So let's go to the news article, the first one that I'm going to read out. So this is where they lived. Now, when I saw these flats, I just thought, God, if there was mental health issues going on in the flat that they were living, it must have just felt like being in prison for the siblings. When somebody has mental health issues, you tiptoe around them. And as I say, I do know this from experience in my family. When one sibling has got mental health issues, it's difficult for that. It's difficult for anyone who's got mental health issues, but I don't think people realise how difficult it is for the people that live with that person. Not only the parent, which is hard enough, but their brothers and sisters, if they have them. So they're the ones that have to live with this person. And sometimes this person will abuse them, physically. And these siblings, when they're underage themselves, they can't, if they're 12, 14 or whatever, they can't just go and move out and go and live somewhere else. They've got to put up with whatever abuse is, even if it isn't the person's fault. Maybe it is mental health. Maybe they have got some sort of mental health illness, but it doesn't help the other people cope with it. And I personally don't think, certainly in the UK, that there is enough help for families. So there isn't enough help, full stop, for people with mental health issues. But if someone's diagnosed with autism or ADHD or even, schizophrenia or more serious illnesses, at least, they have to wait a long time, I know, to get help. But at least they're recognised as having a disorder. So what happens to the family that are living with this day in, day out? Those kids, the other kids that he's now murdered, they were having to go to school every day. God knows what was going on in their flat, in this tower block. I just thought, it must have been absolute nightmare to be living with all that, and then for it all to culminate in one day, he just kills them all. So this is a woman and two teenagers, and the man, 18, who's been charged with murder, is the woman's son and the brother of the other two teenagers. So his name is Nicholas Prosper. We're going to look at some photos. We have a photo of him. We have a photo of his mum. Don't know that we have a photo of his siblings. But he's been charged with the murder of a woman and two teenagers who were found dead at a flat in Luton on Friday. This was Friday. So Nicholas Prosper of Leebank, Luton, was arrested on Friday morning in Birmingham Road after police discovered three bodies at a flat in Leebank off Warlord's Bank Drive at around 5:30 a.m. So it sounds like it happened in the middle of the night. So the victims are believed to be Juliana Prosper, Kyle Prosper, and Giselle Prosper. So Juliana was 48, Kyle was 16, and Giselle was only 13. And also this guy, Nicholas, he's been charged with a number of firearms offences. Just so very sad, isn't it? Because these things could be avoided, I think. There's no reason for these things to happen. If, mental health was dealt with better. Let's have a look at the photos. So, this is Juliana, the mum, and this is her son. I mean, it's just such an awful tragedy. Now, if it happened before 5:30 in the morning, I just hope that they didn't know anything about it. I literally hope that, he killed them and they were asleep, because the thought of knowing that your son was going to kill you or your brother, it's just so awful, isn't it? Looking at his face and knowing your son, the person you gave birth to, the person you've loved and, taken to school, read stories to, used to adore you once, I expect, and then just suddenly, it won't be suddenly, it'll have happened over time. Now, the thing is, if anybody's out there in any sort of situation like this, if your child is under the age of 18, that is the time you need to be getting help urgently. And you because once your child is 18, you can't even do anything with them, because then they're an adult and they have to do their own, go to the doctor themselves, take their tablets themselves or whatever it is. If you see any signs of this sort of violence towards you in your child, the earlier the better that you get it sorted before they get to 18. Because once they get to 18, it's more or less out of your hands. It's all up to the actual individual themselves then. And if they refuse to go to the doctor or refuse to go to the hospital, you can't, there's nothing you can do. Hi, David. Hi, Blind Bee. And I agree. Hi, Heather. I agree. I think the mental health issue has rocketed. And what are the factors? I think COVID had a lot to do with it. I think a lot of these things that are happening now with young people, I think COVID and the lockdowns and everything, it drove us all a little bit crackers, didn't it? It certainly drove me. I'm only just coming out of it now, and I'm a grown adult, and I quite like my own company, and it didn't really bother me being in the house that much. But for young people, I think COVID. I think the stop. I think the COVID. Stop it! Are you going in the bathroom? I think the COVID lockdowns had a lot to do with that. I think there's various reasons. I do think now young people, they don't go out as much, do they? When I was young, we had to go out. That was the only way you could socialise. So you had to go out. And even though you might have had anxiety, I had anxiety, I had panic attacks, all those things. But if I didn't go out, I'd never meet my friends. I couldn't just, if I sat in my room, I literally would have just been sat in my room, and I did spend some time practically agoraphobic, where I only went out to go to work, and that was the only time I would leave the house. But eventually I sort of got over it, because you sort of had to. But now, of course, if you've got anxiety, you can step out of school. Like, you could never step out of school there. Times when I didn't want to go to school, if I was being bullied or if I had anxiety, my parents would just come in, pull the covers off, and like, that's it, you're going to school, no choice. Whereas now, of course, a lot of children drop out of school. I don't think it's a good thing, and school can be a pain. I know that, because bullying is an awful thing. But I think sometimes it doesn't show youngsters how to cope with life. Because in life, you're always going to get bullies, not just at school. You're going to go to work and you'll have bullies. You're going to, in your social circle, you'll have. I do think that young people aren't really learning how to cope with other people, except online. So everything's online, isn't it? So it's easy. So even if young people want to socialize, they can do it online. So a lot of young people are staying in more. They are smoking a lot more marijuana at younger ages, this horrible skunk stuff. But they're still able to reach out to other young people on the internet. They're playing all these video games, and the thing is, I know video games are, to me, video games are like everything else in life. Smoking, drinking, taking drugs, whatever. Everything's okay in moderation, isn't it? It's when things take over. So if your child is playing a couple of hours of video games every day to relax after school or at the weekend or whatever, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about waking up in the morning, getting on the video game, and it's like the video game is real life, and real life becomes not so real, doesn't it? Everything's in the game, and of course they're so realistic these days. A lot of them are very aggressive. It's war, and it's streets of London or gangs of London or whatever it's called. So there's a lot of aggression in these video games, and of course in the video games the people die but they come back to life. Now, I'm not saying it's only I think it's a combination of all these things, because the other thing is, I don't think families, because of YouTube, and that, moaning about YouTube now, but like, we don't all sit down like a family to watch the telly anymore, do we? The only time even me and my son, we sit down to watch the telly together, it will be the football. That's all. Whereas years ago, we did, you'd have your Saturday night family program. When I was a kid, I suppose it would have been like the Generation Game and things like that. Strike It Lucky, Michael Barrymore. There'd be all these different peak viewing family things that the whole family would sit and watch. Noel Edmonds, whatever, loads of that. Well, you don't have that now, do you? Nobody, families don't sit down to watch things now. The parents might watch one thing, or the kids are in their room on the bloody video game or watching YouTube or whatever. It's society has changed completely, and some things are better and some things are not better. So I do think there's a removal from real life for young people, and I think COVID made it even worse. So as I say, I'm only just getting back to, I was thinking that this morning. I took my dogs out this morning. I started taking them out more. I went to the pool a lot this summer. I'm going to start going swimming, because I think during COVID, I just stopped going out, and I've never really started going back out again, not to how I was. I mean, I used to go out a lot. I probably won't go back to going out as much as I used to go out. I was a real, they think I'm like a real party animal. I don't think, I'll ever go back to going out as much as I used to, but just even things, just little things like going to the beach for a walk, or I'd be like, oh, I'm thinking, oh, shall I go? Shall I not go? It's easier not to go because in the house you feel safe, because during COVID we started to be so much more inward thinking, didn't we? So that wasn't me that burped then, that was the dog. I always blame it on the dog. But yeah, do you think it's like, yeah, Antiques Roadshow on a Sunday. We had family things that we watched, when and I still went out. I went out with my friends a lot, but when I wasn't out with my friends, I would sit in the living room with my parents, watch the telly, whatever it was, the soaps. I mean, I can't stand the soaps now, but then I did used to watch them. Dallas. Dallas was a big thing on, I think that was a Wednesday night. That was the only night I wouldn't go out because I wanted to watch Dallas. And we all used to sit and watch that. We all liked it. My mum, my dad, myself, and my brother. My brother, he wasn't ever really much into telly, but he'd be the least likely probably to sit down and watch the telly. But he'd go in his room and play the guitar. He taught himself to. Right, I should be back now. There you go, I'm back. I'm back. You probably preferred it when I wasn't here. Hello, doggy. Hello. She thinks I'm talking to her. You think I'm talking to you, don't I? Oh, yeah. All right. Get off. She's trying to get me to give her some attention, bless her. Can I talk to the camera now? So, yeah, sorry. God, she's going to unplug it now. She's gone off under the table. So yeah, I think that's a lot to do with it. And then, as I say, this cannabis that they're smoking, because it's cheap. You can buy a bag of cannabis for £5. It's much cheaper than going out and buying alcohol, by spending your money on drinks. Do young people go to the pubs anymore? They meet people online, they go on Tinder, or, don't need to go out to meet a partner or to, hook up with somebody. For us, in my generation, if you didn't go out, you never would meet anyone. That's as simple as that. So now they don't need to, so they can sit in, get a £5 baggie, smoke a bit of marijuana, and this horrible marijuana that's full of chemicals, this skunk stuff, and just get lost in their little world in the computer. And they just go downstairs for meals, don't they? Or some of them just have their meals delivered upstairs to them. It's a very, it's a very difficult situation for parents. So, because what happens then, if you as a parent, your teenager, and they really do change overnight. Feels like it. That, if anyone remembers the Harry Enfield sort of skit on Kevin the teenager, how he turned into a teenager, it does almost feel like that. It goes to bed as a lovely little boy and gets up as this sort of, angry teenager. It does feel like it happens like that overnight. So what do you do as a parent? What do you do? Because suddenly your child who wanted to be with you every minute, suddenly now never comes out their room, and when you try and talk to them or whatever, or they sort of get angry or whatever, leave me alone, I'm doing this or I'm doing that. when you try and ground them, you know, they're twice the height of you, in my case anyway, you know, they because then they grow, they look like men, a lot of them. Or girls. I mean, it's the same with girls. I've got friends who've had exactly the same problems with girls, so it's not just boys. How do you stop someone who's 6 foot tall from doing something? You know, it's not like before where you could just send them off to bed or whatever. So it's very difficult. And when do you decide that they're doing the normal teenage thing of just spending a lot of time in their room? Or is it dangerous what they're doing in their room because they're spending too much time in their room? What are they doing in there? You know, it's very difficult to monitor what they're doing because they don't want you in their room. You know, all right, you know, you don't want the conflict, you don't want the constant arguing. So, you know, it's I just think it's really, really difficult. You know, and I wouldn't want to go back to that time. Oh my God, you know, I really think if people really knew what it's like to have teenagers, sometimes they really would not bother having children. But of course, you don't feel like the way it's like, oh, you know, all your hormones kick in. Oh yeah, you know, you want a baby, and oh, it's all lovely. And babies, to me, I think babies are easy. But yeah, teenagers are not easy. So, you know, that would be the best contraception of all, I think, if you just sent young people to see what it was like dealing with a teenager. I think that would be better contraception than anything else. But still, probably not, because once hormones take over, you can forget, you know, when people's hormones are ticking over, nothing else seems to matter, does it? It doesn't matter. You don't see all the problems. They just say, oh, the hormones. The hormones tell them they want a child, and that's it. Anyway, so let's have another look at another article about this story. Hi, Bertan. Yeah, I don't. Cannabis definitely affects people, young people. We've talked about this before, and don't forget, I'm not talking about adults who smoke a bit of, smoke a few spliffs at the weekend, or you know, just the same as with alcohol, with people that have a few drinks. Or, but when somebody is smoking it day in day out, young person especially whose brains are developing, there's no way that it does not affect them, their mental state. Of course it does. Of course it does. And it can, and of course, people are all different, aren't they? Some people can literally do that. They can go out on a Friday night, get absolutely drunk, maybe even stoned as well, maybe even take a bit of cocaine, maybe do all sorts of recreational drugs and that. But then Saturday or Sunday, not bothered, can take it or leave it. But then there'll be some people, it's the same with everything. Some people have an addictive personality, I think, because I've seen it in betting shops when I worked in betting shops. You know, most people who go gambling, they come in, they have a budget, you know, maybe out their wages every week. They think, right, I've got 30 quid to put a bet on, have a bit of fun in the betting shop or whatever. And they go and they put their 30 quid on, and if they don't win, that's it. Then you get other people who, no matter what they win, one of my managers said to me once, you could pay some of these people in Smarties because it's not about the money, it's about the addiction. And he's literally true, because you would pay someone out. I've paid people out thousands of pounds that they've won. And some people would take that home, probably go on holiday with it, leave you a nice little tip, you probably treat their family or whatever, or buy something nice with it. I can remember buying some nice furniture once when me and my partner, we had a good win on the horses, and we went out and bought some lovely furniture. But then you'll get other people who they cannot rest until they've got no money left in their pocket. So, you know, they win maybe, I don't know, a couple of £1,000. Within an hour, they're still in that betting shop and they're putting their last tenner on again. You know, so some people have an addictive personality. And that could be alcohol, it could be drugs, it could be gambling, could be anything. It can even be like sport and things like that, I think, because some people are addicted to exercise, aren't they? Or and I don't think that's healthy either, because you can be too much with things. Everything in moderation, as they say, and if you can be level about things. When I was young, I drank too much. Like, drugs were never my thing, but definitely drank too much. Probably drink too much now, but I never get drunk now. Then years ago when I was a kid, that was what we did. You'd go out, get really drunk. Your night wasn't a proper night if you didn't get really drunk. But gradually you sort of go out of that, don't you? And then now I would say I drink in moderation. Probably a bit more than some people, because I live in Spain. In Spain, you do tend to drink a bit more alcohol. When I was in the UK, I would never drink at home, whereas I do drink at home here. But very little, just like it's just custom to drink a glass of wine with a meal, or when you're cooking, or whatever it's habit that you get into. So let's have a look at another article about this guy. See if we can. Do we know anything more? So we're going to the Sun. The Sun always has more detail. So this is the poor lady who has died. Now, I don't know if she's been stabbed or shot. I don't think they've released how this guy actually killed his mother and his siblings. But of course, that they did get a firearm at the property. So is that what is used to kill her? So yeah, Juliana Prosper, 48 years old, found dead with Kyle Giselle, 16 and 13, in this flat. It's so terrible, terribly sad. I mean, when you think about it, it's got to be mental health issues, hasn't it? Why would a son kill his mother? And even if she was like a terrible mother or whatever, why would he kill his siblings? He obviously just had a lot of hate in him, a lot of rage. And for whatever reason, he decided they had to go. But he's probably killed the only people that care about him. I don't know where his dad is. Were they separated, or where is his dad? I wonder. So this is Lee Bank, where the bodies were found, in that high-rise flat. And then it looks like he was actually arrested a little way away. I mean, it's lucky that he didn't kill anybody else, really. If he could have gone on a rampage if he had a gun, couldn't he? I wonder where he went, why he went over there. Maybe that's where his dad lives, or other members of the family. So the police arrested Nicholas Prosper, 18, charged him with 3 counts of murder, as well as a number of firearms offences. He has been named locally as Miss Prosper's son and sibling to the other 2 young victims. So they had been called to reports of welfare concerns at 5:30 a.m. So I wonder if gunshots were heard, because, who would be around at that time, like, for welfare concerns? Anyway, then they found the 3 victims inside the flat, and he has been remanded in custody ahead of an appearance in court today. So he's going to appear in court today. So a family friend told Sky News Juliana lived for her children. She was a positive person who will be so terribly missed. Now, I know we don't know the full story of what goes on behind closed doors, but I think when young people like this boy, this man, get mental health issues, it doesn't matter what they're like. It won't have mattered what she did for him, or whether she loved him, whether, it won't have mattered, because his mind was on its own trajectory, and he would have probably just hated her, or, whatever she did, because he's gone on a different tangent. Probably, I mean, we'll find out, I suppose, but I would be very surprised if it wasn't to do with drugs and, mental health. So Lee Manor High School head teacher Jess Pather paid tribute to the 13-year-old Giselle. She said, "We're deeply shocked at Lee Manor High School by the tragic incident that occurred on Friday in our local community. We are devastated by the loss of our pupil, Giselle Prosper. Giselle was a beautiful soul and a model pupil." So sad. She excelled in all her subjects and will be sorely missed, particularly by her friends in Year 9. And Miss Panther added, "It will take us all our time to process what's happened. Our thoughts go out to everyone in the community," etc. So the police said, although formal identification has yet to take place, next of kin of those who we believe to have died have been informed and are being supported by specialist officers. Yeah. So more details will come out. I'm just going to check on Sky News, see if there are any more details yet. Can't see anything. So there's quite a bit of news today. We're going to look at the Trump, the Trump, a new assassination attempt by Donald Trump, not by Donald Trump, on Donald Trump. We're going to have a look at that as well. But before we do, hi Annie, hi BF. I hope I haven't missed anyone. Hi Chumba. BF, we've got Peter Folding in the chat. Right, okay, so what I want to just have a look at, so I am definitely going to do a more in-depth video on this subject, because this child-to-parent violence is becoming more and more prevalent. Now, of course, a very famous case of child-on-parent violence was Gypsy Blanchard, wasn't it? Murdering her mum, Dee Dee, over in the US. But there's been loads. As you know, I watch a lot of crime channels. I've seen loads of cases, both in the UK, in the US, where, children have plotted against their parents. Sometimes it's for financial reasons. So sometimes maybe they come from a rich household and they want the money. They want their parents' money. Or it can be mental health issues. There's those kind of things. A lot of the time it's just they want freedom from their parents. Their parents won't let them do what they want to do. Oh my God, I've probably seen about 100 cases, and it's all walks of life. Some are single parents, some are two-parent families. It can be girls, it can be boys. There can be drugs involved or not drugs involved. It's so much more common than you think, but I do think it's not talked about very much. So child-on-parent violence or adolescent-to-parent violence and abuse is any behaviour used by a young person to control, dominate or coerce their parents. So do think, it gets to a point where you start to butt heads, don't you, with your child. They get to a point where they think they're old enough. They know it all. Don't tell me what to do. Don't treat me like a child. That, I think that's common in all households. And then sometimes it just seems to go that bit further, because like it's saying here that it's when any behaviour used by a young person to control, dominate or coerce their parents. It's often threatening and intimidating and can put family safety at risk. So I think this is something that gets forgotten. The other children in these families, what they have to put up with is pretty horrible, because they they haven't done anything wrong, and what the parents will tend, because the parents don't want to go to the police or don't want to admit there's anything wrong with their lovely son or daughter, so they say to the other siblings, don't upset them, now be careful, don't upset them. And then that sibling is like, right, don't upset them. But you don't need to upset these people because they've got mental health issues. Doesn't matter what you do, you know, they'll still be like that. You can't, it's not you upsetting them, it's them and their mental unbalance. You know, I'm definitely going to do a video. There's a lot that I could say about this. And, you know, it's like that the sibling has to tread on eggshells, but they don't even know what it is that's upsetting their brother or sister, you know, because they're probably just a child. And they're like, all right, don't upset them, you know, and they don't have to say anything, and that sibling will come at them. So whilst it's normal for adolescents to demonstrate healthy anger, conflict and frustration during their transition from childhood to adulthood, anger should not be confused with abuse or violence. So this is where does it cross over? You know, teenagers do get angry. You know, they've got all those bloody hormones flying around and testosterone and God knows what. Got issues at school, everything's so focused, and you know, when you're a teenager, all the things, everything seems larger than life, doesn't it? Everything seems, you know, you think that everything applies to you, and you know, things that sort of as you get older you stop worrying about so much, like your appearance or what people think of you. You know, as you get older you start to be kinder to yourself and just accept, you know, that you can't please everybody all the time. But when you're a teenager, your peers especially, they mean everything, don't they, to you? You know, you would hate to think they were laughing at you, or you weren't wearing the right clothes, or, you know, you don't want to be different from everybody else. It's a horrible time. Oh my God, I would hate to be a teenager again. I don't remember my teenage years as good years at all. I don't look back fondly and think, oh, I wish I was a teenager again. No. Like, I wouldn't mind being 30 again, but I certainly would not want to be a teenager again. So, violence is a range of behaviours, including non-physical acts, which is aimed at achieving ongoing control over another person by instilling fear, and is similar to cases of domestic abuse. And as I say, I think it's worse than domestic abuse, because you don't want to go anywhere. You know, people don't want to go anywhere with cases of domestic abuse. They don't like to cause a fuss. But when it's your own child, it's very difficult to go to the police. So most abused parents have difficulty admitting even to themselves that their child is abusive. They feel ashamed, disappointed and humiliated, and blame themselves for the situation which has led to this imbalance of power. Because, yeah, you always come around to it must be you who's a bad parent. There is also an element of denial, where parents convince themselves their child's behaviour is part of normal adolescent conduct. So what I would say to anyone who's watching this, I say I'm going to look at this more closely, because I think it's really important that I know for a fact there are people out there in this world who just sit in their room with the door locked because they're frightened of their own children. You know, I know that. I've known people who've done that. You know, this is much more common than people think of it, because just as it says there, people are too embarrassed to go and get help or to make a big fuss about it. So it looks like this website that I'm on at the moment, reducing the risk of domestic abuse. I just Googled child on parent violence and this came up. Would be a good, you know, if you've got any concerns about it, either for you or for someone you know that you think is going through this. It's a very lonely thing, because, yeah, you don't want to I think if you're domestic abuse is bad enough from a partner, but I think with domestic abuse you could normally maybe go to a friend, maybe go to the police. Doesn't seem so bad or so embarrassing. But when it's your own child, you don't want them to be arrested. You don't want them to go to prison. You don't want them to be sectioned. All those things you don't want to happen until maybe it gets too late. And I bet in this family dynamic of this poor family that has been, the whole family has been annihilated by this boy. And he is a boy. He's literally 18 years old, so he's only just an adult. I bet that it won't have been just come out of nowhere. There will have been signs. Maybe he's being seen, maybe it'll turn out that he's, was attending some mental health things, or maybe she was looking for help for him, or maybe she just was trying to deal with it on her own. I wouldn't be surprised if she was trying to deal with it all on her own because she didn't want the police to take him away, or she didn't want him to be sectioned, because he is her son. And she will have loved him no matter what he did to her, unfortunately. So I expect there's been purgatory gone through in those flats. It's awful. It's so sad. It's so very sad. And there's nowhere to go in these flats, really, because you haven't got a garden and what have you. So, her and the other two children just is so sad, isn't it? Okay, so we will look at that again when we've got more details. Let me just come back to the chat. I think that, I don't know what the answer is, really. I don't know what the answer as it is. As I say, I do think that there's many factors in it, and some of the, it's a mixture of the isolation of teenagers in general. I do think COVID lockdowns had a lot to do. It made it worse, but it was already happening. But I think, has the mental health of young people been addressed from COVID? Because at the times, the young people, so he's 18. So when was COVID? 2020. So, he was 15 on lockdown. Is that where these problems started for him? To be in lockdown at a time when, you're going through difficult times anyway. Maybe there'll be studies done in the future. But it's like the boy from the Southport stabbings. He was 18. These 18-year-olds, going out and doing these terrible things. I mean, he went and murdered all those children, 3 children, and stabbed 8 other people. Or, there's definitely something different now. And it's probably a combination of factors with the games, people spending more time on computers. As I say, you can do everything online. I'll never forget my son saying to me once, I thought you hadn't been out of the house for like 2 months or something. And then suddenly he said to me, oh, can you help me clean my flat? Because he was living separate there, because I've got a date. And I was like, well, where have you got a date from? Have you got a date? You've not left the house. No, it was on Tinder or whatever. So, you don't need to leave the house these days. We would never have got a date in my day if you didn't leave the house. It just, and now it's, you don't even have to go out to a takeaway, or get delivered, to get shopping delivered. You literally could just sit in your house and never move out, which sometimes is quite nice, isn't it, when the weather's bad, or when you don't feel like going out, or you're just not feeling well. But it's not, and it's different when you're older as well, to feel safe at home and not really want to go out. But young people should be out experiencing relationships, not just online. Anyway, let's have a look at good old Donald Trump. So Donald Trump, oh Charlie, yeah, Do you know, I would say one thing. In Spain, Charlie, I don't know if you agree. I do think people are more sociable in Spain. They don't spend so much time on their. It's probably the weather, probably because of the weather. They're definitely much more sociable. You know, actually going out and being sociable. And yeah, of course now. You go to the local supermarket, buy a pineapple, put it upside down in your trolley, and go to the wine aisle and wait for somebody to come and crash into your trolley to make a date. But do you remember when people actually used to go out and talk to each other? It's just, I don't know, it's strange. Yeah, there's a lot more sociability in Spain, I'd say that for it. And you know, the internet is not so popular like YouTube and things like that, I've noticed. But anyway, so let's go to Donald. So, gosh, poor Donald. So that's um, two attempts on Donald recently, isn't there? So we had the other assassination attempt, and now, yesterday apparently, there was another one. Let's have a look. Oh yeah, so on Sky News, Hugh Edwards is profoundly sorry. So it's all going on in the Hugh Edwards case, but I'll look at that another time when we've got all the results. So we'll look at Donald. So apparently there's been another assassination attempt on Donald Trump. So apparently this suspect, and this is another sort of American guy, you know, they blame the immigrants for everything, but it's all Americans that are trying to kill Donald Trump. Makes you wonder, you know, will Donald Trump, if he wins, God forbid, the next presidency, will he ban guns? Because all the guns seem to be centered on him at the moment. So he says, so this person, this suspect, we're going to have a look at him talking in a minute. He flew to Ukraine and urged Americans to join him. But Donald Trump says his resolve is stronger than ever, and the FBI is investigating after shots were fired while he was playing golf. So apparently his security is not too brilliant, which really surprised me because at the end of the day, he is an ex-president. He's running for the next president, so he should have really high security. You know, it's not as if he was an ex-president and now he's never in the news. He's always in the news, isn't he, with something that is said to rile up somebody. You know, he's saying that all the immigrants are eating animals and they're eating the cats and the dogs. He's said that he hates Taylor Swift. So there's probably a load of Swifties, a load of Taylor Swift fans that probably quite like to assassinate him now. You know, he says very contentious things, and he's running to be the president. So he's not exactly fake. You know, it's not like he's bloody, I don't know, Bill Clinton and never appears on telly anymore. He's always out there doing rallies, giving speeches, saying contentious things, because that is Donald Trump, isn't it? So he does need security, because as much as Donald Trump is not my cup of tea, but I still wouldn't like to see him being shot. I don't, you know, none of that's, you know, people should not be shot because of their political persuasion or whatever. Though, you know, I do think he does say very antagonistic things. But so this suspect in custody, Ryan Ruth, urges Americans to fight there. Americans. So he's been urging Americans to go to Ukraine. Now, I don't know how old he is, but I know that in Ukraine they won't take people over, I think it's 60. Let's have a look. Let's see. Anyway, we've got him talking on this here. So this is him. Oh, you can't see it yet. Let me share it. This is the guy. Look, patriotic, stars and stripes on his T-shirt. I mean, he looks older than, oh no, he's 58. So he's still got 2 years he can fight for Ukraine if he wants to. And that surprised me because, of course, so he'll be pro giving Ukraine money. And of course, Donald Trump is anti giving Ukraine money, and he's more pro Putin, isn't he? Donald Trump. Putin's like his best friend, so or one of his best friends. So this guy, he could fight for Ukraine. He's still got 2 years left in him as far as Ukraine's concerned. And this is resurfaced footage from 2022, and it shows Donald Trump's assassination suspect talking to Newsweek Romania about the Ukraine war. And Ryan Wesley Ruth, 58, has been arrested in conviction with the apparent attempt on Mr. Trump's life. So this was, Donald apparently plays golf every Sunday morning in the same place. So it'd be easy to know that he would be there that particular Sunday morning. They found an AK, whatever, AK-7 type gun around there. So, you know, you can just go and buy one of those, right? So in America, I was just thinking how many people, even as we speak, are planning to kill Donald Trump. Because everything he says is very contentious. And, he's got no grace about him. So all that, I was thinking about the tweet he's put out. Well, it's not a tweet because it's on his Truth Social. I hate Taylor Swift. Well, how many politicians could you imagine? I don't know, Keir Starmer, Rishi Sunak, going on Twitter or Twitter and saying, I hate Ed Sheeran, because maybe Ed Sheeran had come out in favour of the opposing political party. Oh, it's asking me to sign in. Have I ever signed in? Oh, I can't. I'm not signing in if they won't let me have a look. Oh, no, I'm not making an account. Anyway, it was on Truth Social. And he just put, I hate Taylor Swift. That's sort of childish, isn't it? Even as say Rishi Sunak or any of the politicians that perhaps I don't like, even Boris Johnson, would he have gone on and done that? He's our populist, the most populist prime minister we've ever had. And I don't think even he would have gone on and said, oh, I hate Gary Neville or I hate Gary Lineker. I don't know, maybe. Just seems childish to me for, a senior politician, the ex-president of the United States and someone who's trying to be president again, to make a statement like that on his Truth Social. I hate Taylor Swift, because Taylor Swift has come out against him. But, of course, how many people love Taylor Swift? I'd say a lot more people than love Donald Trump, because Taylor Swift is famous all over the world, not just in America. So it's a silly thing to say, really. And, of course, he has noticed his ratings have gone right down since Taylor Swift came out and said that. His ratings have gone down since he debated Kamala Harris, because she did wipe the floor with him. His ratings have gone down since he started saying that immigrants were eating the cats and eating the dogs and what have you. So he's not perhaps, of course, he picked J.D. Vance as his running mate, and he hasn't gone down very well. So, I don't know what's going to happen in the election, and who knows. But I wouldn't say that Donald Trump's campaign is going very well. So now 2 assassination attempts as well. So let's see what this guy had.
As human beings, we must support each other. We cannot turn our backs on anyone around the world and expect the problem to go away. Why world leaders are not sending military is beyond me. We're going to have to elect new leaders the next go around that have a backbone and that have the fortitude to say, hey, we're not going to tolerate this type of behavior. This type of behavior is unacceptable. When you talk to a 20-year-old guy that sold everything he owns to come here to fight, that is heroism. He's coming here to risk his life for humanity, for the Ukrainians. As human beings, we must support each other. We cannot turn our backs on anyone around the world and expect the problem to go away. Why world leaders are not sending military is beyond me. We're going to have to elect new leaders the next go around that have a backbone and that have the fortitude to say, hey, we're not going to tolerate this type of behavior. This type of behavior is unacceptable. When you talk to a 20-year-old guy that sold everything he owns to come here to fight, that is heroism.
Oh, see how he gets so emotional talking about heroism and going to Ukraine and fight, but it doesn't really fit in with actually trying to assassinate somebody, does it? If you rescind violence, if he's against Putin for invading Ukraine, then you can't then go off and try and kill Donald Trump and then say that's okay to do that. Violence is you either think it's right or it's wrong, and it's wrong. So but he was getting quite emotional there, wasn't he, talking about someone just don't I don't know where these ideas come from, because these kind of things also, they do make Trump a bit of a martyr. Yeah, but that's twice now someone's tried to assassinate him. Hope for his sake it's not third time lucky. Go back and just watch this one more time.
As human beings, we must support each other. We cannot turn our backs on anyone around the world and expect the problem to go away. Why world leaders are not sending military is beyond me. We're going to have to elect new leaders the next go around that have a backbone and that have the fortitude to say, hey, we're not going to tolerate this type of behavior. This type of behavior is unacceptable. When you talk to a 20-year-old guy that sold everything he owns to come here to fight, that is heroism. He's coming here to risk his life for humanity, for the Ukrainians. As human beings, we must support each other. We cannot turn our backs on anyone around the world.
Yeah, it's a very strange situation, isn't it? Hi, Jules. As you say, Bertan, I mean, Trump has said just one phone call, and that's it. He'll stop the war. The war would never have happened if he was in government. And, maybe it will be right, because, of course, Trump, he is inward looking to the country, not so outward looking. It's all about, or he says it's all about America, etc. Is this going to start a trend of assassinations again? I was thinking, and there's been quite a lot in America's history. There's been a lot of assassinations, haven't there, in their political history? And as I think somebody was saying in the chat there, yeah, you think Kamala, will she be? But I think they all must be worried, mustn't they? It's like scary to think that somebody can come that close. I'm sure they couldn't get that close to the president like Joe Biden. But how could they get that close to Trump that they could actually, even the other one before? It makes you wonder, are the Secret Service, are they secretly hoping that somebody will shoot Trump? Because they weren't very vigilant, were they? Seemed like everybody saw that previous shooter except the Secret Service. Were they deliberately turning a blind eye or what? You just don't know, do you? But yeah, so this is the guy that apparently, and he's lucky he hasn't been shot, because of course the other one, the young boy, he was shot. So why are they sort of literally gunning for Trump at the moment? I wonder why. Because Donald Trump, love him or hate him, he's always been the same, hasn't he? You can't say that what you see is not what you get with Donald. He's always been the same since he canvassed for the very first election, the election that he won. He's always been the same. He does not really saying anything different now to what he was saying then. So why suddenly does everybody want to kill him, it feels like? And previous, the other guy, the young lad, apparently had been a Republican supporter. I think somebody was saying in there that this guy is or was You know, it's worrying, isn't it? I mean, if I was Donald Trump, I'd be frightened of going out, to be honest, because who knows? Who knows? Hey, so, hey, so who knows what the reason is? Why suddenly is there this sort of a bit of a, I don't know, because there hasn't been any, as far as I know, there haven't been any assassination attempts for a long time. But of course, there have been loads in the history of America. But was the last one Ronald Reagan? I don't know. Anyway, let me see if there's any other info. Yeah, now the thing is, Kamala Harris has got a 5-point lead at the moment as far as polling's concerned, apparently, according to Sky News. She's got a 5-point lead, so, you know, he's not going to be very happy with that, is he, Donald Trump? We know he doesn't like losing. He doesn't even like, you know, doesn't like to admit that he's lost. Let's just see what it says on Sky. What we know about suspect Ryan Ruth. So according to records, Ruth lived in North Carolina for most of his life before moving to Kauai, Hawaii in 2018. And in Hawaii, he and his son appeared to operate a company building sheds, according to an archived version of the website for the business. Voter records show he registered as an unaffiliated voter in North Carolina in 2012, most recently voting in person during the state's Democratic Party primary in March 2024. He said he voted for Mr. Trump in 2016 before later becoming disillusioned with him. Now, I wonder why he became disillusioned with him. I wonder why. Because we can't forget that, you know, at the end of the day, Donald Trump, he is a convicted felon now as well. You know, he's associated with Jeffrey Epstein. You know, he's RAP'd a woman, apparently, you know, and there's all this with Stormy Daniels, the porn star associations. You know, there are, you know, I think sometimes people forget that. He can turn around and say it's all rubbish and just trying to besmirch him or whatever, but I don't think it is. You know, he has done these things, and you know, but it doesn't matter to some supporters. There are some supporters, even women, they still think he's great even though he's done bad things against women. And then of course is the law, the right to life laws and things like that. And even the Pope weighed in about that. So the Pope's getting involved, which makes me even angry because Pope's not elected, is he? He's not elected except by the other priests. You know, sitting there, he's, you know, telling people how to live their lives. And he's sat in the Vatican, you know, the richest place in the world or whatever, and, you know, never had a problem with anything, and sat there telling people how to live their lives. So he's angry with both Kamala and Donald Trump. He got angry with Donald Trump because he said his views on immigrants are, you know, terrible and against humanity. And then he's annoyed with Kamala because he says she allows babies to be killed. So, you know, the right to life, etc. But, you know, this has always been a bit of a problem of mine with Catholicism, because also, though I think this particular Pope has stepped back a little bit, because then they will say, you know, you can't use contraception. Well, you know, in countries like Africa and places like that, you know, some of the places where people live, the only fun thing they get to do is probably have sex that's free. And, you know, they can do it, but of course it results in children if you don't take contraception. If he doesn't want people to, you know, if he believes in the right to life once a fetus is, brought into being, then you have to believe in contraception. You can't ban contraception and abortion. What, just all these poor people go on having children, these children starve and suffer. So, I'm not sure about the Pope, but I have a feeling, and maybe somebody will know in chat, I have a feeling he might have said that contraception is okay, which if he said that contraception is okay, that's fair enough, because he has a massive influence on these poor countries, because a lot of them are mainly Catholic. So they listen to what the Pope says. So if the Pope says don't take contraception, they won't take contraception. But if the Pope says, oh, you're okay, you're not going to hell if you take contraception, then they'll take contraception, and they need to take contraception. Not only to stop having babies, but also to stop sort of STDs and things like that from being transmitted. So campaign finance records show that Ruth has made 19 small political donations, totaling around $140, modest donations, since 2019 to Act Blue, a political action committee that supports Democratic candidates. So somewhere, for some reason, in between 2016 and 2019, he decided he didn't like Donald Trump anymore, and he started donating small amounts of money to this Democratic Political Action Committee. So he's had a few brushes with the law. He was featured in a profile by the News and Record newspaper for his assistance in helping defend a woman against an alleged rapist. Gosh. And under the headline Crime Fighting Pays, when he was 25, he was described as a super citizen after being awarded a law enforcement Oscar by the Greensboro chapter of the International Union of Police Association. However, the Washington Post reports that public records also show that Ruth faced criminal charges over two separate incidents in 2002 for possession of a weapon of mass destruction. What? A weapon of mass destruction? What, a nuclear warhead? Or are they thinking about an AK-7 or whatever? Is a gun a weapon of mass destruction? Anyway, apparently he pleaded guilty to the first charge in April 2002, but no other details were publicly available, according to the newspaper. And the News and Record newspaper reported that later that year he was also charged after barricading himself in a building in Greensboro for 3 hours, armed with a machine gun. The incident began after he was pulled over for a traffic stop, but police eventually arrested him without incident. Oh my God, well, how was he allowed to have a gun again then if he'd already been charged? Hi, Kelly. How would he sorry, I'm just totally gobsmacked that if he's already been charged with possessing guns, that weapons of mass destruction, how would he, do you know what I mean? How was he allowed to have them again? That whatever people think about guns in America or whatever, this definitely needs some sort of looking at, because that's just surely barricaded himself in a building in Greensboro for 3 hours armed with a machine gun after he was pulled over for a traffic stop. So if that's what you do if he's pulled over for a traffic stop, thank God it wasn't anything more serious like, I don't know, not paying his car tax or whatever. How ridiculous. Okay, support for Ukraine. So Ruth is reported to have said he travelled to Ukraine in an attempt to help the country in its fight against Russia. And a video has emerged of an interview he gave to Newsweek in 2022. Can't believe how long that war's been going on. To me, it makes me angry because as far as that war's concerned, I think, not only the America, but other countries and the UK included, keep, just throwing money at this situation. But who is negotiating for peace? Sometimes I just think, where's the peace negotiations? Because that war will never end until there are, whether you like Putin or you don't like him, you've got to, face reality. Unless people start talking to him and some sort of peace is negotiated, it's never going to happen. So, it's all those poor people, the innocent civilians in these war zones that suffer, while politicians go around, saying, no, we're never giving in. But, never giving, might have to give in something, but anyway, we'll see. He says in the footage, this conflict is definitely black and white. So he believes it's black and white. This is about good versus evil. And he later says in the video, why world leaders are not sending military to Ukraine is beyond me. Well, because they don't want World War III. That's why. You can't just send military, other countries, and then, Russia, anyway, can't get into a World War III conflict. Anyway, he later says, we're going to have to elect new leaders the next go round that have a backbone and the fortitude to say we're not going to tolerate this type of behaviour from Russia. Well, I do think Kamala Harris has got a backbone, but I don't think she's going to go and try and start a war with Putin. She's I just don't think she is. Who does he think is going to do that? I don't think there's anybody that would become the leader and then go and, start a war with Russia. Nobody I just don't think that's ever going to happen. But anyway, he wrote a book about the Ukraine war where he described how he gave up and quit. A decision, he says, makes him the worst of humans. And the book, called Ukraine's Unwinnable War, was previously on sale on Amazon for £2.25 before being withdrawn. He writes, I am the failure, the hypocrite that wants the world to change, but let communism beat me down and exhaust me and send me home. I'm mere 5 months and I run for home, not even with the first bit of mud or cold or the first bullet, and I am beaten and exhausted in the simplest elementary ground floor challenges of good and evil, and I fail. Anyway, so Kamala Harris has taken a 5-point lead over Donald Trump. Don't know if that will be affected by this, the latest assassination attempt. Still a long way till the election. She's still got a long way to go. It all depends on the swing states, doesn't it? That's what will make the decision in this election, because there are people out there, they wouldn't vote Republican if it was Mickey Mouse standing. They wouldn't. And there are people out there that wouldn't vote Democrat if it was Minnie Mouse standing, because some people would just vote for what they've always voted. But the ones that are the key are the swing states, the states where they do sometimes go one way, sometimes go the other way. And they're the ones that will matter the most, isn't it? At the end of the day, there's other states that, doesn't matter what Donald Trump does or what Kamala does. The people there, they're not going to vote for the other person. There's people out there that won't vote for Donald Trump even if he turns out to be the Messiah. And there's people out there that won't vote for Kamala Harris even if she turns out to be Mary Magdalene, because they just wouldn't vote Republican or Democrat because it's against them. So it's all going to be decided on those swing states. But I do think this Taylor Swift endorsement, whatever people think, whether they think she's right or wrong or whatever, she's come out in favour of Kamala, and that will be a massive advantage for Kamala, because I don't think Donald Trump's going to get any similar celebrity, with a similar weight behind them to come out for him, and that's what he needs now. Because now that Taylor's come out for Kamala, if Donald doesn't somehow conjure up some similar backing from some similar person with similar popularity, I just don't think he can do it now. Whereas if you would have asked me a month ago, and especially just after the previous assassination attempt, which I thought would go in his favour, to be honest, the way he, came out of it, fight, and all that, and people think, oh, it's God wanted him to survive because the bullet just missed his ear, etc. That, I think, was his most and then the bad thing that happened for him was Kamala and Joe switching over. Once Joe Biden stepped down and Kamala came into the running, and Kamala with the backing that she's got of people like Taylor Swift, Jennifer Aniston, lots of very, very famous, Robert De Niro, there's lots of very famous Americans rooting for the Democrats. So I just think it'll be difficult for Donald Trump now, but there's still a long way to go, so anything could still happen. Maybe something will. So I just hope it's not another assassination attempt. So it's not good, this. That guy, the history of that guy, supposed to be caring about humanity, etc. It's not good to go out and try and assassinate somebody, Donald Trump or anyone, it's not good, is it? So, but we'll see, will it make a difference to his popularity? Will next week, will he have clawed back some of those 5 points? This is what's fascinating about politics, isn't it? Because, anything can happen. Sometimes when you think, oh, it's cut and dried, and then something happens, you never know what's going to happen, do you? Anyway, I'm going to go now. I've got some more classes later. I'll probably be back tonight. Probably, I'm not sure, but I'll definitely be back tomorrow night for Members Live, of course. So don't forget, think about becoming a member, joining our live stream on a Tuesday, the exclusive live stream for members. What else did I want to say? Nothing else. I think that's about it. Oh, that's right. What I was going to say, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this video in two and put out the Donald Trump bit, just as talking about the Donald Trump assassination attempt. So just so that if you see that come out, that won't be if you've watched this video, that won't be a new video for you. I'm just going to cut this video in two, so if edit it, so it's just about Donald Trump, because it's sort of, these are two completely different subjects, aren't they? Talking about the poor family that was killed by their son, and now talking about good old Donald. I think Donald will be frightened to go out now, don't you? God, if I was Donald, I wouldn't go out the house, I think, at the moment. We're not, terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. Anyway, so, oh, hang on. I think this teenager is in court. Oh, so the teenager, just to let you know, he has appeared in court, Nicholas Prosper, and all he spoke was to give his name and date of birth. That's it. So as far as you can see, there's nothing else. Okay, so take care. Remember to look after you. You are the most important person in your life and the people around you. I wish that lady would have looked after herself more and been able to feel that she could go for help. It's so very sad, isn't it? So very sad. But anyway, I'll see you really soon in the next video. And until then, may your God always, always, always go with you. Bye.